because at some point in time in my life, it dawned on me that, okay, this is what I was going to be focusing on after my university years. And yeah, I have focused on it. Over time, I've become, I was the acting state coach for Niger State because I schooled in Mina, Foot Mina. And at the same time, well, I've I've written articles. I've guided young chess players. I still talk to a lot of the young chess players. I've played. I I've come close to winning a number of tournaments. But all in all, I believe that chess is my way of life. And chess is a way of life for a lot of people and can be a way of life for even more people. So that's the thing.
Yeah, I'm sure you're just trying to, just because of time, to just tell us little. I know you have so much high profile. Which one comes first? Babatunde, photograph, chess. Which one comes first? In your way, because which one comes first? Or is it chess that brought about the need for? Was it?
You're putting me on the spot.
Yeah, no, but it's fine. I mean, I think our viewers should just try as much as possible to just Google African chess media. I'm telling you, that website is let me confess that sometimes
Okay,
after hold on, Babatunde. Okay. After sometimes writing my stories, and I'm sure of them, but for confirmation's sake, before I let it out, I'll come to your website, African Chess Media, to actually check, if Babatunde can say this, then I can say this. It's a big website, and I need to let you know that. So which one came first, photograph or chess?
Oh, chess definitely came first. It was while I was playing, I realized that chess was not being talked about enough, and we didn't have so I decided to go into the journalism aspect of chess, to talk about chess, to write about chess, to make more people know about chess. And while doing that, I realized that writing articles, I need pictures. And the pictures I was getting at the time were not good enough. So I decided, okay, why don't I just take up photography and start taking my own pictures? And that was just how it started. As well as someone very important to me, mentor, an elderly friend, he said to me back then that a picture speaks more than 1,000 words. And that stuck with me till date. So that ensured that I went into taking pictures. I started taking pictures with my phone back then, as in, you'd see a lot of noise in those pictures. But I didn't care. I just wanted to take pictures that I can use. And it has been quite the journey. Honestly, it has been quite the journey. And I am grateful for the opportunity to lead this life.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine that for someone that is very part of your life, I've been on chess, and that's why I believe if there's any sport that should be used to set an example for social development, it goes beyond. It goes beyond just it being a sport. Yeah, before I let you go, two more questions. I mean, the questions are for people out there, and you want to say how things can really change your life, and especially sport, because a lot of people think sport is just for recreation. Not chess, I tell you, not chess. So now, tell people out there, I mean, you have your story, tell them, encourage guidance, friends, that they should be part of chess.
The chess movement.
Yeah.
Well, the truth is, when I started playing chess, a number of people felt I was wasting my time. But I knew what I was doing, I knew where I was going, and I was focused on going all the way with chess. And the honest truth is, it has changed my life. It has changed the lives of a lot of Nigerian chess players. And when you play chess, it doesn't just help you become a better thinker. It builds tenacity within you. It builds some aspects to your life that you didn't know was there. And at the end of the day, you'd realize that, oh, wow, I have accumulated all these life-changing tools. And yeah, before you know what is happening, you are top in your class, because chess is not just for you to play. It's also for you to use the lessons learned in your daily life, as well as at your place of work, at different aspects of your in different aspects of your life. So yes,
I'm sure a lot of yeah, thank you very much. A lot of our viewers are more encouraged. But the last question before I let you go, a thought came to my mind, and before we go for this quick break, Babatunde Ogunshiku, now with this level, the Vice President, Prince Adewale Adeyinka, and also the President has gotten chess to this level, but there's still so much room for development and improvement to ensure that we are one of the best in Africa, no doubt about it, especially West Africa. What do you think needs to also be done? I mean, one or two things. You know, we've added 1 or 2, is giving us 2. We're adding 2 and 2 is giving us 4. So what should we do so that we can add something together to give us 100? What do you think also that needs to be done?
Well, I do sincerely believe we need to get more corporate sponsors, more corporate bodies into the fold. We have a lot of chess players working in various top-notch organizations. We need to bring as many top corporate bodies into chess. And kudos to Mr. Femi, who ensured that the match between Tunde Onokoya and Deborah Quickpen came to life. It's a massive one, and if the people that we met on that day can come into chess and help aid the financing of chess, we would have a lot more chess players be having the opportunity to travel out of the country and represent Nigeria at various tournaments. We would have a lot more administrators going for trainings that will make them better. We would have a lot of arbiters going for other events like that and working not just in Nigeria, but continentally and globally. We need to actually ensure that every sector is being attended to, and the corporate
has to do with the Deborah Quickpen and Tunde Onokoya exhibition to promote Deborah Quickpen, not just Deborah Quickpen, Slum in Africa, also a promotion, you know, from every other person as stakeholders. We also want to say, also there's a man, Mr. Yemi Edu, who, and also you mentioned the other person's name.
No, Mr. Yemi Edu is who I was mentioning.
Okay. The man with the microphone, I don't want to forget his name.
Oh, Mr. Kunle Kasumo, definitely.
Yeah.
He's the brains behind the whole thing.
Okay. So these men have done so well. And also, for those listening, that chess needs much corporate sponsorship and everything to make sure that, yes, it's one of the best sports in Nigeria. So thank you very much, Babatunde Ogunshiku. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yes. That's Babatunde Ogunshiku, who is the CEO of African Chess Media. A mention on the collaboration between Tunde Onokoya and Deborah Quickpen was brought together by Daniel Ford, International CEO, Yemi Edu. Also, not forgetting the Nigerian Chess Federation, talking about this federation has done so well. They make you have interest in the game of sport. And I said my kudos to them is because there are more people that are non-chess lovers that get themselves involved in chess. So when we go on the script week, when we come back, we'll be talking something close to the Olympics.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamode Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on Plus TV Africa as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamode Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
This is it. I will take you through this amazingness today.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
I left Nigeria back as far as 2012, and it was a very funny story. As you can see from my social media pages, my best food is amala. So I worked after work. I'm a medical doctor, full-time doctor. After work, I went to this famous place in Oshogbo where they have amala just next to my hospital. So while I was there, I sat down with the food, and then I saw this newspaper advert saying doctors needed urgently in Saudi Arabia. So I abandoned my plate of amala. The rewards were just amazing, and I couldn't believe my eyes. You know, free accommodation, free flights. I was earning, you know, I was going to earn like times 20, you know, of what I earned at the time, in dollars as well. So I packed my bags, went home, packed my bags off to Lagos. I was at Ikeja for the interview. Like immediately? Immediately, I left the Amala, went home, packed my bags, and off I went to Lagos. The next day I went for the interview, did the interview. There were loads and loads of people there. Did the interview and got picked, and I was on my way to Saudi Arabia. So from Nigeria, I worked in Saudi Arabia for 2 years, and then I walked around the Middle East, Dubai, Oman, Bahrain, and from there, while I was working, I was writing my exams to work in the UK and the Republic of Ireland. So from there, I got a lecturing position in the UK, and then I was able to pass my exams within that time. So I got my licenses to be able to practice in Europe. So at the moment, I can practice in Europe, I can practice in New Zealand, I can practice in the Middle East, and of course in Nigeria as well. So my journey hasn't been straightforward. My journey has been from Nigeria, scattered around the Middle East and then Europe. The first culture shock I faced was I landed on a Thursday and obviously Friday, but it didn't click that Friday was a day to be respected in the Middle East, in the Muslim society. So I got up, was looking for food. I got out of my house, and after walking for like 5 minutes, it still didn't click that I was the only one in the environment, okay? So after walking about, say, 500 meters, I suddenly saw a car just drove in front of me and blocked me, and then I saw all these guys in beards just came, and of course I didn't. So the guy just came and said, "What are you doing out here? It's Friday. You're supposed to be praying." I'm like, I paused, and then he says, "Okay, are you a Muslim or a Christian?" "Yeah. Are you a Muslim or a Christian?" I swear I didn't know whether to say Muslim or Christian because I didn't know what was going to happen. If you say Christian and they start flogging you, if you say Muslim, why are you not in the mosque? So I paused, and the guy said, "Bring out your Ikama." I showed him my Ikama, which is like a resident permit. That shows your religion, so it shows it shows I'm a Christian. And then he said, "Where are you coming from?" I said, "I just got into Saudi yesterday. I don't know what's going on." Then he said, "Well, today's Friday, Jumat. You have to be praying. If you're not praying, you respect it. Stay in your house between this period." So I said, "Okay." He said, "Everywhere is closed. You can't even get food." So I said, "I'm sorry. I will walk back right now." And then another one that was amazing, even though I was a doctor, I couldn't speak to female patients. So if a man comes in with a woman and the woman is the one with the problem, you cannot talk face to face to her. You cannot ask her. You have to ask the husband, say, "Okay, why have you brought this woman here?" And then the husband would. So my first experience, I spoke to this woman who had a breast lump, and I was talking. The husband was just looking at me. So when I finished, he was answering me. And when I finished, the guy just lost it. "How can you be talking to my wife?" I was like, I'm not toasting your wife, guy. You know, calm down. So the medical director had to give me an education, you know, yeah. So we were able to just placate the guy at that time. So that was one culture shock for me as well. I've traveled a lot of countries. I've seen 50 different countries now. I would say that in Europe, okay, so some very interesting ones. When I got to Europe, I was in my house, just sitting on my own, and friends said, "Come on, there's this birthday party happening, let's go and eat." I said, "Birthday party? Oh yeah, let's go now, where's the venue?" So I went to the venue, we ate, we ordered, ate everything, finished. Birthday party. At the end of the day, the celebrant came and said, "This is the bill." And in my head, I'm thinking, bill for what? I should pay that you invite. I was in my house. I was in my house. You invited me. I came to eat. Now I have to pay the bill. So that was one. The second one was, of course, driving. In Nigeria, you're on the left side, but in the UK, you're on the right side. So that was another culture shock for me in Europe. Okay. It's important to state that I always talk about the way to live legally within the legal bounds without violating any international laws, which is opposed to what people do, most people do. And if you notice very well, people live, you know, it's upward movement. You're living from poorer countries to rich countries. And interestingly, it's not as if the people who leave their countries illegally, generally speaking now, are not the poorest of the poorest when you put the standard of their country into context. They're not the poorest of the poorest. But because they're looking for better opportunities, they're looking for a place where they will get, you know, larger finances, better standard of living, education, good access to health. That's why they're leaving. So they don't care how they do it. So long as the promises, you know, they've been given good promises, then they just take that pathway. I always use my social media handles on Instagram, on YouTube, Waka Waka Doctor, to tell people of the legal ways. And the reason why people most times don't want to follow this pathway is because I would say it's inherent laziness, because you have to do the work. You know, this illegal pathway, they're possibly going to say, pay this amount of money, we will just move you across the border. But they don't consider the consequences that come with it. This way that I preach involves a lot of, you know, work. You have to do a lot of work. So it means that you have to do research, you have to make applications, you have to pay little amount of fees, and then get the end result. So if you're not open to working, I give tips, I point you towards the right direction, but if you're not open to working, then it becomes a difficult task. You want to see your documents, you want to see, you have your original passport. Have you submitted a statement of motivation or a letter of intent? Do you have a visa? Have you submitted documents to help you get an original visa? Do you have a work permit? Have you seen an original work permit? Have you called your employers over there to confirm that I have a real job and I'm coming to resume? So that again brings me to my first point, that people are mentally lazy. They don't want to do the work. Because when someone gives you documents and say, oh, this is your document, we're going abroad, you should say, give it to me. Let me confirm if it's real. Let me confirm if it's original. If it's a work permit, I'm going to call my employers to see if this job is real. If it's a school admission, I'm going to ring up the school to find out if it's real. I told you behind the cameras, I said, people have this mentality that, you know, things work outside just the way it works in this country. It's wrong. If you pick up the phone and call an admissions office, they will talk to you. If you pick up the phone and call an employer, they will talk to you. You're just looking for information. And if the information is real, they definitely get it. So, like I said, the first way to help with spread of information, help curb this is spread of information. Educating people, and that's what I've been doing for the last 18 months using my social media platforms. Nothing good comes extremely easy, okay? You have to be patient. I tweet sometimes, I say that, I say, when you travel abroad, your life changes. You know, your skin becomes fresh, your smile is different, okay? There's peace of mind, you know, things come to you easily. You can actually actualize your dreams. You can live out your dreams right in front of you because there's a system that supports that. So my advice is, when you go abroad, be patient, keep working hard, don't stop, don't relax. You know, have a vision, write it down, allow your eyes see that vision, you know, consume it, and continue to work towards it. It's simply as basic as that. That would be my advice. Save, and always call home, because one of the downsides to going abroad is that it can be boring sometimes. And that's why you should call friends. Don't cut people off. Call friends. You know, always call home if you miss home. Like, I'm home now, because I missed Amala, I missed all those things, so I came home. So yeah, that's my advice. Keep working, keep your head down. Of course, keep your connections back home so that you can always come back to them. This is a huge subject. It's a huge subject, and it's not something I can share in 1-2 minutes. So I'm going to say that the first thing you want to do is open an Instagram account if you don't have an Instagram account, and look for me, Waka Waka Doctor, because I give tips. Now, there are job boards across Europe, across Asia. You cannot streamline your choices and say that, oh, I just want to be in Canada, I just want to go to the US, I just want to go to the UK. There are 195 different countries in the world, so you have to say that I'm open to any one of them. And most of these countries have job boards, okay? Websites, different websites, where you can submit your applications. You go through rigorous interviews, you submit documents. If you then succeed, they are able to process your work permits and employ you. Now, some people will say, oh, I've tried the UK, it didn't work out, so they give up. But there are different countries in the world. There's Turkey, there's Lithuania, there's Kazakhstan. I know teachers that I've spoken to, in fact, 6-7 of them in the last 4-5 months, who have left Nigeria to Kazakhstan, right? They teach English. They earn at least $1,800 in Kazakhstan, which is much more than what they will earn in Nigeria. So there are 195 countries. I post them, I mean, almost every day on my Instagram channel, so you can watch and see some of these job boards and apply for jobs. Some basic truths and facts is, not every doctor can leave the country. So even if doctors are leaving, more doctors would graduate, and you still have doctors around. But doctors are leaving in their large numbers every day. So the future of medicine in Nigeria is very bleak, because you have the extremely intelligent doctors leaving going abroad because the system abroad is extremely encouraging. The system abroad gives you opportunities to become greater than what you can ever think or imagine. People keep writing their exams, people keep going for interviews because the system allows it. So the advice straight up I'll give to the Nigerian government is, first and foremost, create a platform that encourages us as doctors. Facilities, give us things we can, it's not as if, things we only see in the books, things we can see and work with. Pay us money. I worked in Osun State. My salary in 2011 was 90,000 naira. I was doing 2 jobs and I couldn't earn 120,000 naira, 2 jobs. When I went to Saudi Arabia, salary was $5,000. Look at the discrepancy, it's too huge. And they were owing us 6 months. You owe someone 6 months. I was seeing 200 patients in a day. 200 patients. How, I mean, the first 10 patients I see would get the best out of me. The other ones, the truth, it's just the truth. The other ones would be people, that's it. It doesn't work that way. Create a good culture, a good environment for doctors to work. Pay them properly. Give them, standard remuneration that they can compare with their friends and colleagues abroad and say, okay, yes, we it's commensurate to the work we do. Nigerian government really has to improve. The future of Nigerian doctors, sadly enough, is abroad, and countries are asking for them. Like the PLAB exam is an incredibly easy exam to just write and pass. So people are writing it and moving. So if Nigeria cannot improve these parts, payments, facilities, then it's a poor tale. I would end on this note to say that this is a popular theme that I've always passed across, to say that travel is not necessary of money, but of courage. And the reason is because it takes courage to decide to leave a place you've been for many years and go to a place that's brand new. You're going to be leaving your friends, you're going to be leaving your family, you're going to be leaving your job, you're going to be in search of ways to make money, search of better career. So it's often very difficult. The first step is the most difficult one, the most daunting one, saying, I want to move. It's very difficult. But I would always encourage you to take that step. When you start, you will get to the end. Don't wait, start now. It's another year, it's 2022. My aim is to get at least 2,000 people abroad. So if we can do that, we've succeeded. Okay? There are better opportunities out there. If you're attaining this level right now in Nigeria, if you go abroad, you'll be times 20. That's it. So start now, make the move. If you're in town, if you catch me in any of the cities abroad, you can holler at me and I'll be there. Traveling abroad, migrating abroad is not age specific. Age is not a limitation. Even if you're in your 50s, you're in late 50s, you can still go abroad. I always talk about academics because academics seems to be the easiest path. But even if it's true career, like I've said earlier, you can go search for these job boards that will give you employment. Again, experience counts. I'll give you an example. Places like Australia are in need of people with huge experiences in different fields. Whether you're a cameraman, you're a technician, you're a chef, if you have 5-10 years, electrician, 5-10 years of experience, and you apply for jobs in Australia, they'll take you. Estonia, Lithuania, these are places that are in need of vocational, you can do vocational studies. If you're not a skilled worker, so to say, these are places that are in need of you. So age is not a factor. So even if you're 50 and you have 15 years of experience to back this, they're looking for you.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages.
Children to school. A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
Hello and welcome to the news update. My name is Nyamgul Agaji. No fewer than 3 persons have been confirmed dead following a collapsed building at number 13 Wilson Bass Street, Arowajope Estate, Maryland, Lagos State. The unfortunate incident occurred at the wee hours of Thursday. Officials of the Lagos State Emergency Management Authority, LASEMA, are currently on rescue operations at the scene of the incident. The LASEMA Permanent Secretary Femi Oke Osoyantolu, who confirmed the incident, said 2 persons were rescued alive from the rubble. The Nigeria's Governors Forum has reiterated its commitment to improving the security and protection of lives and property at the subnational level. The nationwide protest set to take place from August 1 to 10 has been generating tension and a variety of response from Nigerians. Numerous groups expressing interest in leading the campaign stated that the protest was sparked by the escalating cost of living and the economic hardships faced by the populace. In a communique signed by its chairman, Kwara State Governor Abdul Rahman Abdul Razak, made available to journalists on Thursday, the NGF emphasized the importance of implementing robust security measures to ensure the safety and well-being of citizens within their respective states. This announcement followed the forum's meeting early on Thursday morning. In the wake of the growing hardship in the country and calls for a nationwide protest against President Bola Tinubu's administration, the federal government has said it is not sleeping on duty and begged for more time from Nigerians. Describing the planned protest as a family matter, the government said all issues would be resolved in a way to ensure the peace and stability of the country. Minister of Information and National Orientation Mohammed Idris disclosed this on Wednesday in Abuja after a meeting held by members of the Federal Executive Council at the instance of the Secretary of the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume.
There's no need for any protest. Let us all calm down. A lot is happening. Nigeria is going to move and march on. And we believe that whatever government comes up will be in the interest of Nigeria. We don't think that there is need for any protest. We are appealing for calm. We are appealing for a peaceful resolution or peaceful approach to any issue.
Advise my fellow young Nigerians to disassociate themselves from the planned protest. We need to look at the entire Nigerian project and what the impact of the economic reforms, especially the macroeconomic reforms of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration.
The Defense Headquarters has warned those mobilizing for a nationwide protest that while it is their right to protest, it will not condone anarchy. Tagged End Bad Governance, organizers of the protest have lamented about widespread hunger and inflation in the land. Addressing a press conference in Abuja on Thursday, Director of Defense Media Operations Major General Edward Buba said the military won't allow anarchy to befall Nigeria. He added that the military has uncovered plots by unscrupulous elements to hijack the protest and turn it into a violent one by attacking innocent Nigerians and their businesses.
The level of violence being envisaged can only be described as a state of anarchy. The armed forces on its part will not stand by and allow anarchy to befall our nation. This is because we have seen wars and have witnessed anarchy in countries in which we have operated, particularly during the times of ECOMOG or during our peacekeeping operations in various countries. I believe that some people out there may fantasize about war or state of anarchy, thinking that it is like what they see in the movies. I assure you that war or a state of anarchy is not what you see in the movies. It involves real people, real situations.
The Right Honorable Martin Zamawale-led River State House of Assembly has called on the State Police Command to arrest persons parading themselves as caretaker committee chairman of the 23 local government areas in the state. At plenary, the leader of the House, Major Jack, and some lawmakers raised an alarm over the continued activities of CTC chairman, despite the Supreme Court judgment. The lawmakers further asked the police to immediately withdraw their personnel attached to such persons following what they referred to as the refusal of the state's governor, Siminalayi Fubara, to dissolve the caretaker committees in obedience to the judgment of the Supreme Court. The lawmakers gave the directive after reviewing the certified true copy of the recent Supreme Court judgment, which granted financial autonomy to the local government area in the country during their 7th legislative session.
I am in receipt of the Supreme Court judgment, which was delivered on the 11th day of July 2024, Mr. Speaker. This judgment totally abolished the so-called caretaker committee, interim member, whatsoever name that was given. This document, this judgment has abolished what they call caretaker committee.
I'm calling on the security agencies to the police to go after these people, to ask them to stop them from parading themselves as illegal caretaker committee members. And they should stop the paramount rulers, traditional rulers, chiefs, youth bodies, market people, women and men should stop dealing with them because they are impostors. Then radio stations, TVs, print media, and etc.
amended the laws of local government in the state, directing that only elected local government officials shall be the ones responsible for local government activities. Mr. Speaker, the worst thing it also is, and why the committee is bothered, is that on 11th of July 2024, the Apex Court, the Supreme Court, gave a judgment granting the autonomy of local government, whereby it was stated unambiguous that only elected local government officials shall run the affairs of local government, which Rivers State is among the local government, the states involved.
President Bola Tinubu on Wednesday received former Senate President Pius Anyim, who recently defected from the People's Democratic Party, PDP, to the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC. Speaking to State House correspondents after his presentation to Tinubu by Governor Hope Uzodinma, chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum, PGF, Anyim said he defected because the country was facing challenges that required collaboration. Anyim defected from PDP to APC in Abakaliki, Ebonyi State during the grand finale of the APC local government election campaign on Saturday.
It's necessarily, contributing quota does not necessarily mean to work, but to engender a conducive atmosphere for progress. I'm not looking for work, but there is need that, given the challenges the country is facing today, that we all need to put all the hands on deck to make the country move forward.
How I feel, I'm very excited, and it's a thing of joy to me that every big fix in my state, especially that of our nation, I empower him, and so many other distinguished leaders have decided to join our party, the All Progressive Congress. Somebody like Pius is not a pushover. He's not somebody that you can say because of money joining APC.
We now move to other parts of Africa. Protesters marched on different streets in the Ugandan capital, Kampala, shouting slogans and holding placards denouncing corruption by lawmakers. Bernard Oundo, president of Uganda Law Society, who was heading a team of lawyers representing the suspects, has said at least 42 protesters were charged and remanded when they appeared at a magistrate's court in Kampala. The charges outlined various offenses, including being idle and disorderly and being a common nuisance. They pleaded not guilty and were ordered to return to court at different dates between 30th of July and 6th of August. Outside Africa, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris took a swipe at Donald Trump at her first campaign rally since replacing President Joe Biden as the Democratic presidential candidate. In a 17-minute speech, Harris aggressively went after Trump's vulnerabilities, comparing her background as a former prosecutor to his record as a convicted felon.
I was elected vice president. Before I was elected United States Senator, I was elected Attorney General of the state of California, and I was a courtroom prosecutor before then. And in those roles, I took on perpetrators of all kinds. Predators who abused women, fraudsters who ripped off consumers, cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
On his part, Donald Trump ripped into the vice president, casting her as a lying Kamala Harris, mispronouncing her name as he dubbed her the most incompetent and far-left vice president in American history.
So now they bring in this one who's worse than him. She's worse than him. Because he's a fake liberal. You know, he wasn't that liberal. He was fake. She's a real liberal. She really is a real liberal. She's much worse than him. Now, if we start beating her in the polls by 10 or 15 points, are they going to bring in a third candidate? It's like, you know, Trump is killing this guy. All right, out. Let's bring in a new one. Out. Out. And then maybe at some point they get one right, but when will that stop?
In business news, the Corporate Affairs Commission, CAC, has given over 91,000 dormant companies a 90-day ultimatum to file all their outstanding annual returns or risk being disregistered or deregistered. CAC disclosed this in a statement released on its official website on Wednesday. According to the statement, this is to inform the general public that the Commission, under its powers contained in Section 692, subsection 3, subsection 4 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act, Number 3 of 2020, intends to strike off from the register names of defunct or dormant companies that have not filed annual returns for 10 years. AC urged stakeholders to note that, or CAC urged stakeholders to note that it is illegal to carry on business with the name of a company that has been delisted from the registrar. As such, a company is deemed to be dissolved. Recall that last December, CAC announced its intention to deregister 91,843 companies over failure to file their annual returns. In entertainment news, Cardi B has officially surpassed Nicki Minaj as the highest certified female rapper in the United States, according to the Recording Industry Association of America, RIA. While Minaj has sold more records overall, Cardi B holds the edge in credited units. Meanwhile, Alicia Keys achieved a historic milestone with her first diamond single, Empire State of Mind, featuring Jay-Z. Across the Atlantic, Eminem was honored with the Brit Billion Award for being the best-selling American rapper in the United Kingdom. And finally, sports news. Ahead of today's opening match between Super Falcons of Nigeria and Brazil female national team, Super Falcons midfielder Christy Ochebe has expressed confidence in the team's ability to overcome any opposition at the Paris 2024 Olympics, asserting that Nigeria can compete with the best teams in the world. The 23-year-old Benfica player believes the Super Falcons are well prepared for the challenges ahead, despite being drawn in a tough Group C alongside world champions Spain, Japan and Brazil. Nigeria's best women's Olympic football tournament performance was in Athens 20 years ago, when the Super Falcons finished 6th after reaching the quarterfinals. The match between Nigeria and Brazil will take place at the Bordeaux Stadium in France on Thursday, with the kickoff time slated at 6 p.m. Nigerian time. And that's the news update. For more stories, please follow us on Facebook, X and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. You can also view us from Limex on limex.tv and Glow TV apps anywhere in the world. My name is Nyamgul Agaji. Thank you for being there.
Sometimes, it's not just the distance we travel. It's the gaps we close. It's not the things we buy. It's the memories we create. Sometimes, it's beyond the places we go. It's the connections we make. Not just the things we taste. It's the taste of things to come. And it's never a question of if, but when. Because life is always just a bit better with American Express. Introducing the Access Bank American Express Gold Card and the Metal Platinum Card, now available through Access Bank.
I looked away and tried to imagine Mama's reaction when I told her about Gozie. She had been waiting eagerly for me to bring someone home. I needed to marry early, she said. I lacked the traits and beauty to attract many suitors. Thus, I had to make do with what I had before I was too old and educated to catch a decent man. Maybe I made a mistake by letting your father send you to university. That's why you like arguing like this. Too much book is inside your head, she lamented one day after interrupting a heated conversation between me and my brothers. Today it's politics, tomorrow it's football. Instead of you to come and join me in the kitchen, you're shouting up and down the house like a street boy. My grandmother used to say, only a foolish rat dances with the lizard in the rain. You're a woman, your brothers will have wives to cook for them. After all this book, better make sure you come home with a husband. You better not bring just a certificate. Adugo has that young man who's undo. Even Chinelo has somebody. Mama had been born in a time when education had been a luxury, if not a waste, for a girl child. But my grandmother had been a troublemaker. She'd insisted her husband send all their daughters to the local primary school to learn to read and write. Mama had spent the years afterwards learning to be a wife, and then her father shipped her off to be married long before she turned 18. I had other ambitions, desires she did not understand, to be something other than a wife. I hoped telling Mama about Gozie would restore her faith that I would be married someday. I was tired of being introduced to friends' sons, cousins, uncles, friends. Tired of Mama telling me every time the daughter of someone we knew got engaged or married, and as Shrebi, they were all planned to wear. Tired of congratulating others and watching them respond with oily smiles of those who had achieved all you aimed to, saying, "Don't worry, God will do your own." My name is Iwanuse Odafen, and I'm the author of Tomorrow I Become a Woman. Growing up, my parents were very big on reading, and my dad would buy me a lot of books. You know, my mom made us read academically, like she would always make sure you had to. But then my dad would also like buy me Charles Dickens, you know, those like a lot of the classics. You know, my dad made me read them, and I just loved reading. And it got to a point that I started disturbing him to buy me books, and then he would we had these book shopping days where we'd go shopping for books together. And once I finished reading the books after a while, I'd go back to him again until he got tired and he was like, "Leave me alone." Because I've always loved reading, like I explained to you, growing up that way. Well, writing actually was something I discovered pretty recently. It all started in 2015 when a friend was going through a very difficult situation. And I remember I was so frustrated about it, and I was talking to someone. The person said something I didn't agree with, you know, basically repeating a lot of societal talk. And I was really upset by this. And I remember I told him, this friend of mine, I was like, "I'm going to write about this." And he was like, "Can you go ahead now? Write it." And it's obviously because it sounded absurd. I had written it. Then I used to write essays, and I'd contributed to like some non-fiction things in school, but I'd never written like a novel, so it was a very bizarre thing to say I was going to do. But then in 2016, I had some free time because I was like in between jobs. I was applying for a job, and I was like, I want to write about this thing. I was really bothered by it, and I just started asking about writing. You don't get better. It's like you don't get better if you don't write. And I started, and my very first attempt was terrible, but I continued, and that just gave me so much peace, and that's how I really discovered my love for writing. Oh yes, definitely. When I attended the Purple Hibiscus Writing Workshop in 2019, at that point, because I come from a very finance background, so I studied accounting, MBA, everything was just very finance, consulting. But it was the first time I was actually surrounded by writers. Everyone around me was actually a fellow writer that wanted to write. And just to be honest, I think we really underestimate how much just reading other people's works, when you actually have to workshop each other's works, and just reading and being inspired, like, wow, more people are writing, and just listening to other people's experiences. And I remember also a lot of the tutors at the workshop were also very insightful. Just little things, nothing about writing, you never know what will change. And I remember at that point I had a draft for my novel then, and I was stuck and I didn't know what to do. I remember Chimamanda, who was in charge of the workshop, said that particular session I was in, she said something around, sometimes you're writing and then you're so focused on your agenda and you forget to tell a story. It sounds like a very simple advice to a writer, but then it clicked that was what was wrong with my draft. It was a lot. It was a very long process in the sense that, because I had to even gain confidence as a writer, I had to be sure in my own voice. I had to find my own writing voice. But it was such a learning experience for me, because I learned so much, not just about the subject I was writing on, but also about myself. Because several times I had to interrogate some things I'd accepted and some things I thought were normal, because I had to also think back over my own experiences to reflect them, because I really wanted the novel to be a true reflection of society. I wanted everyone to be able to see themselves. So I'd talk to friends, and then I had to even interrogate myself that, is this, why are you comfortable with this? Why have you accepted certain things as normal? So it was a very insightful experience. And it also taught me a lot about betting on yourself, because it's so easy to give up when you're writing as a writer, and because you get news, there's so many like, why are you special, but it really taught me resilience. I stopped so many times, but then I kept going back. The first draft took me about 2.5 years. Yes, so I started writing the first draft in February 2016. I had a draft by September 2018. But then I had to keep editing, and I had something close to what is published now by 2020. Yeah, so it was a long process. Okay, so it was, again, publishing. I think a lot of people don't really understand how the publishing process, So generally, okay, it's different for a lot of people, and also in Nigeria is a bit different from the West. So like the very first edition of my book was published in the UK, and to do that I had to query a lot of agents. I got a lot of no's. I got over 50 no's, and from the first draft I had, and that's kind of what spurred me to keep editing my draft. But I think after the workshop in 2019, I went back early 2020 and I rewrote my entire draft in 3 weeks. And I finished it, and I just felt like I can buy this book. As I could walk into a bookshop and I can pick. I know. And I was at that point, I knew I was supposed to stop. This can go out, and I started querying again. I think one thing people don't prepare writers for is actually rejection and the reality of publishing. And I think accepting that you're going to be rejected is the first step. And it sounds like a crazy thing to say, why would you tell me that? That's a defeatist mindset. But then that's the thing, you're going to be rejected. But then, most of the time, all it takes is 1 year, and it's about not stopping your work. Just keep writing, because the thing about writing is, the only way you can get better is actually by writing. And it's crazy. It's like, oh, but my writing isn't good. But then you won't get better if you stop. It's about reading more. It's about also finding works that connect with your writing voice, works that speak to you, and also improve your writing. Just consistently improving your craft and never stopping. You get no's. You get no's that, and the thing about it is accepting that those no's will come, and you will be discouraged. Because you will be discouraged. I was discouraged so many times. There were times I paused writing for months. It will come. But then it's about not stopping there, refusing to allow that be the end, and just believing and having insane self-belief that at some point in the future, this will work out. And so that's my encouragement, to just keep writing and to just not stop.
Storefront switch on light on. Switching commander internal. Expect to leave at DW. Fuel tank pressure 55. Your nav state with back and is perfect.
Reading is an essential habit and a culture that must be developed. Nigerians are generally believed to have a poor reading culture. The role of government in promoting reading and equipping reading spaces and libraries in Nigeria cannot be underestimated. But first, we must look at the development of reading habits from the home and the role parents play in encouraging their children.
My mom used to be a teacher, so reading was obviously part of a curriculum. And then my father used to be a professor and is an author. So I started reading very, very early, and I started reading books that were higher than my age grade. I was reading African Writer series from age 7, age 8, and reading encyclopedias by that time. So obviously my parents had a huge part and encouraged that in me.
In the Nigerian book market, there's a high influx of foreign authors writing for children, but very few Nigerian authors telling relatable, homegrown Nigerian stories.
If you start out reading stories even to your baby, even before they're 1, and then as they get older, buy appropriate materials that are colorful, with easy to read words, and read with them. I think that helps.
Adedotun Enyade, a co-founder of Robin Heights, a leading bookstore in Nigeria, has tips for Nigerian authors and how they can improve on their work and get into the hearts of readers.
The story has to be good, right? If you're writing, whatever you're writing, if you're writing fiction, if you're writing non-fiction, it has to be like, really, really compelling, one. Next thing would be like in terms of like the packaging, right? People have gone past the era where you just take your books with just about any printer to print for you. I think, publishers, self-published authors as well, they need to invest in ensuring that the quality of the book, the final output is one that would, stack up with any book, published, elsewhere in the world. So that's really important. Then I think, what would be like the most important tip for me to them would be just, they need to invest in marketing.
The book business, like any other business, is challenging.
If you ask anyone who's running the business in Nigeria, they will tell you capital, of course, right? Book selling is also, as with any other business, is also quite capital intensive. Getting to pay your rent, getting to actually buy the books and stock up like your shelves when you have them. Hiring good people requires decent amount of capital. So I would say it's getting the startup funds to set up something, and then if you're looking to do it at scale like we're hoping to do, then it also requires you raising funding, which isn't readily available in commercial banks, right? I don't think a bank would say they want to give you a loan to set up a bookstore. They probably will be skeptical about the number of people who read. So for us, I think it's just I would say capital is at the top of a totem pole.
It is commendable that certain individuals and organizations are making concerted efforts to revive the reading culture in the country. The government should also redesign the school curriculum to incorporate more reading activities in primary and secondary schools.
This week on The Inside Story, former President Donald Trump survives an assassination attempt days before receiving his party's nomination for another run at the presidency. See who he picked for a running mate. President Joe Biden insists he can serve 4 more years despite continued questions about his age. Plus, a Trump-appointed judge throws out the classified documents case against the former president. Now, on The Inside Story, USA Votes 2024, the Republican National Convention.
Catherine Gibson, VOA's congressional correspondent in Milwaukee, Wisconsin for the Republican National Convention. This week, Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump takes center stage amidst heightened security measures after surviving an assassination attempt.
Friends, delegates, and fellow citizens, I stand before you this evening with a message of confidence, strength, and hope. 4 months from now, we will have an incredible victory, and we will begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. Together, we will launch a new era of safety, prosperity, and freedom for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. The discord and division in our society must be healed. We must heal it quickly. As Americans, we are bound together by a single fate and a shared destiny. We rise together or we fall apart. I am running to be president for all of America, not half of America, because there is no victory in winning for half of America. So tonight, with faith and devotion, I proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States. Thank you.
In the aftermath of the shooting incident that left Trump injured, the United States Secret Service remains confident in its ability to protect the former president. VOA's Arash Arabasadi has more details.
Take a look at what happened.
Former President Donald Trump survived what the FBI described as an assassination attempt at a campaign stop in Pennsylvania. Trump says he was shot in the ear during the attack by what authorities described as an AR-style rifle, like those used in several mass shootings in the United States. The FBI identified 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks as Trump's would-be assassin, and the Secret Service says it fatally shot him outside the rally venue. The Biden administration says it is looking into security failures.
At President Biden's direction, an independent review of the incident will be conducted, one that will examine the Secret Services and other law enforcement actions before, during, and after the shooting, to identify the immediate and longer-term corrective actions required to ensure that the no-fail mission of protecting national leaders is most effectively met.
My fellow Americans.
The White House says Biden spoke with Trump by phone, and the president later addressed the nation from the Oval Office. He called for unity while condemning the violence that's plagued American politics, including the January 6th assault on the U.S. Capitol and extremists threatening election workers. Back in Pennsylvania, cameras captured FBI agents entering the home of suspected shooter Crooks in the Bethel Park area. His motives for the shooting remain a mystery. But how he carried out the attack in the first place became a political flashpoint. As House Committee on Oversight and Accountability Chairman James Comer of Kentucky said, Americans demand answers, adding that the committee will soon send a formal invitation for a hearing to Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle. Arash Arabasadi, VOA News.
In an unsettling election year, this Republican National Convention has turned out to be surprisingly and comfortingly normal. The party faithful have welcomed presidential nominee Donald Trump, and with the usual pomp and circumstance, the vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance. VOA's national correspondent Carolyn Presutti leads our coverage here at the convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
This is Donald Trump's first public appearance since he was shot. He didn't need to speak. His state delegates filled the void. Here to join his new ballot partner, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. It was the biggest political secret of the year, announced at the Republican National Convention.
It is therefore my honor to nominate Ohio Senator J.D. Vance for the office of Vice President of the United States of America.
Senator Vance, at age 39, brings youth to the presidential election. Known for his rural America memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, he's a former Marine and a conservative who once referred to Trump as America's Hitler. President Biden Monday called Vance a clone of Trump.
J.D. Vance be nominated by acclamation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye! The announcement comes on the first day of the Republican National Convention in front of 2,400 state delegates pledging their votes for the expected nominee, former President Donald Trump.
You're only going to interest another net.
A few blocks from the convention, protesters against Republican policies and Trump.
I thought it was important to remind people that we have two candidates, and one of the candidates has 34 felony counts against him.
But the Vance choice and Trump's rebound after the attempted assassination energized this group even more.
The question is not about the past. The question is about the future and how we move forward as a country and the issues impacting the American people.
These delegates say they want unity. Now, at the end of the first day of their convention, they can rally behind the full presidential ticket of Trump and Vance. Carolyn Presutti, VOA News at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
The official theme of Day 2 of the Republican National Convention, Make America Safe Again. It could have been Republicans all play nice again. Donald Trump's former foes in this year's party primary took turns issuing messages of unity.
If you want to seal the border, vote Trump. If you want to restore law and order in this country, vote Trump.
Besides entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley also put aside her previous policy differences with the former president.
I'll start by making one thing perfectly clear. Donald Trump has my strong endorsement.
During this year's primary battle, Haley was Trump's last challenger. The U.S. ambassador to the United Nations during Trump's administration had attacked her former boss as unfit and unelectable. Delegates from Haley's home state, such as Jerry McDaniel and Robin Hawley, prefer to look ahead, not back.
It doesn't matter who ran against him before. President Trump is bringing them all in together, and that's what we want to see.
Do you think Governor Haley has her heart totally into this Trump 2024 campaign now against President Biden?
I think if she is a person that I think that she might be, because I don't know her, I think that she's got some forgiveness and some motivation to move on and to keep us together and to help our country.
Other former Trump opponents from this year's primary and those from the past addressing the convention Tuesday included Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, Marco Rubio of Florida, former Housing Secretary Ben Carson, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
My fellow Republicans, let's send Joe Biden back to his basement and let's send Donald Trump back to the White House.
In his first speech on the national political stage, Donald Trump's vice presidential nominee, U.S. Senator J.D. Vance, came out swinging.
We're done importing foreign labor. We're going to fight for American citizens and their good jobs and their good wages.
Relatively unknown across the United States, Vance, a Yale Law School graduate who served in the U.S. military for 6 years, has served in elected office for about a year and a half. He was introduced by his wife, Usha Vance.
Chosen to help lead our country through some of its greatest challenges. I am grateful to all of you for the trust you have placed in him.
Wednesday night was a chance not only for Vance to introduce himself to the American public, but to prove his foreign policy credentials.
Together, we will make sure our allies share in the burden of securing world peace. No more free rides for nations that betray the generosity of the American taxpayer.
Delegates said they were not bothered by Vance's lack of experience.
Really what we're electing here is potential leadership. And he has got proven potential leadership, and he's not one of us old fossils.
Or his past comments criticizing Trump.
I love that he's young and he can be molded. And he is embracing the America First, which I also appreciate. And I think under Trump's tutelage, he can go pretty far.
In a night focused on making America strong again, Trump's son summed up the choice facing voters.
It's a choice between people who are proud of America and people who are ashamed of America. And ultimately, it's a choice between America last and America first.
In the Democratic camp, President Biden condemned the attempt to assassinate his political rival and called for the country to cool down the political rhetoric. All this as questions about his age and his ability to govern for the next 4 years dog his campaign. And a series of one-on-one interviews have done little to assure the public that he's up to the job.
President Donald
Republicans are pledging unity and support behind their presidential nominee, former President Donald Trump, during their national convention this week. For President Joe Biden, it's a lonelier scene. He is isolating in his home in Delaware following a positive COVID test. This amid calls from prominent Democrats for him to step down. Analysts say it's looking grim for the president.
Democrats can't even decide whether Biden is really in trouble or not, and if he is, how to get him out of the race, and if they get him out of the race, who should replace him and how. Now, that's pretty fundamental. Meanwhile, the Republicans have gotten their act together. They've had a great convention, and Donald Trump, because in part of the assassination attempt, probably has more public support than he ever has had.
Privately, the president is reportedly listening to concerns. Publicly, he is resisting calls to step aside.
I've demonstrated that I know how to get things done for the country, in spite of the fact they're told we couldn't get it done. But there's more to do, and I'm reluctant to walk away from that.
65% of Democrats say Biden should step aside, according to an AP NORC poll.
It is the height of folly and ignorance to claim based on the polls, which constantly change, who's going to win and who's going to lose, and you should force candidates out just because you think they can't win.
American University presidential historian Alan Lichtman's keys to the White House system has accurately predicted all but one U.S. election results since 1984. He says Democrats should stick with Biden. Lichtman's system ignores polling, including that 70% of Americans said they are not confident that Biden has the mental capacity to be president. For Trump, it's 51%. What happens now is anybody's guess. If Biden agrees to step aside, the most orderly scenario would be for him to endorse an alternative candidate. Vice President Kamala Harris would be a logical choice, at least financially, because as part of the Biden-Harris ticket, she would inherit their campaign war chest. Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News, Washington.
A U.S. district judge in Florida presiding over the classified documents case against former President Donald Trump dismissed the charges Monday. She sided with defense lawyers who argued that the special counsel who filed the charges was illegally appointed. Trump faced dozens of felony counts accusing him of illegally keeping classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach, Florida. He is also accused of obstructing FBI efforts to get them back. He had pleaded not guilty and denied wrongdoing. Defense lawyers filed multiple challenges to the case, including one based on a legal technicality. They asserted that special counsel Jack Smith had been illegally appointed under the Constitution's Appointments Clause because he was appointed by the Attorney General rather than being confirmed by Congress. In a 93-page order, Judge Eileen Cannon wrote, quote, "The framers gave Congress a pivotal role in the appointment of principal and inferior officers. That role cannot be usurped by the executive branch or diffused elsewhere, whether in this case or another case, whether in times of heightened national need or not. The Department of Justice says it will appeal the decision." Although the motive for the attempted assassination still remains unclear, heated political rhetoric has long been a concern for observers of political speech, for concern it could incite violence. We spoke to two experts on presidential campaigns, University of Pennsylvania professor Claire Finkelstein and Third Way executive Jim Kessler, to learn how the attack could impact what each campaign is saying about the other.
Both sides believe that the other side's rhetoric is inappropriate.
We had years and years in this country in which people debated issues, talked about principles, actually tried to answer questions that the media has or that members of the American public have about their positions, about what they stand for. So the short answer is that I really hope that it helps to bring us back to actual policy discussions and positions rather than slinging insults and, hurling accusations.
I think the Biden language is strong. Some may say that it crosses a line, but it's certainly not as incendiary as the Trump rhetoric and the Republican rhetoric. But I'm not really sure how well each side is going to be able to turn down the heat.
Though I don't want to be blaming the victim in this attack, but I do think that this is a lesson to candidates, and I hope to former President Trump, that words really matter. And that when you use words that point in the direction of violence, and when you use words suggesting that there needs to be any kind of explosive reaction to the other side in a country rife with weapons, we really run an enormous risk, and we have been ratcheting up the political violence for years, making it really dangerous to hold public office.
Project 2025, a conservative blueprint to centralize governmental authority under the president, has in recent weeks made its way into the broader U.S. electorate. While most say they don't know much about it, in a recent YouGov poll, the majority of those who said they did said they didn't like it. We turn to VOA's national correspondent Steve Herman for more.
Donald Trump, campaigning for president 8 years ago, promised to bend Washington's bureaucracy to his will.
If I'm elected president, we are going to drain the swamp in Washington, D.C.
Trump's continuing vow to drain the swamp, meaning to rid government of those who impose policy but are unaccountable to the president, is now backed with a blueprint crafted by more than 100 conservative groups. Project 2025, published by the right-wing Heritage Foundation, instructs how to swing a wrecking ball against the administrative state. Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts is warning there may be violence along the journey to its implementation.
We are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
After that incendiary comment, Trump tried to distance himself from Project 2025, asserting that while he knows nothing about it and its authors, I disagree with some of the things they're saying. The project's head, Paul Dans, appearing on C-SPAN, left no doubt Trump's words and ideas were the inspiration.
He was president for 4 years, so many of the ideas are carry-ons from his original work. So I would like to think that a lot of it does kind of spring from that first term of Trump.
VOA requested an interview with the Heritage Foundation. The think tank said it could not make anyone available, but emailed a statement stressing Project 2025 does not speak for any candidate or campaign. Project 2025 seeks to eliminate the checks and balances writers of the Constitution, such as James Madison and Thomas Jefferson, crafted through dividing power among the executive, legislative, and judicial branches of the government, according to Will Marshall, the president of the Progressive Policy Institute.
Madison and Jefferson ought to be spinning in their graves when they see how much power they want to concentrate in the next president's hands. And if that president happens to be Donald Trump, then it's a kind of a nightmare for the country, given the way he's misused power in the past.
President Joe Biden's re-election campaign has made Project 2025 a primary target, setting up a separate website dedicated to criticism of it and highlighting liberal media reaction.
Critics are calling it the fascist playbook, and it should be one of the reasons, if not the reason, that you vote this November.
The sweeping plan also calls for slashing government funding for renewable energy and climate change mitigation. The Department of Education would be eliminated. The Federal Bureau of Investigation would be overhauled top to bottom, as would the U.S. Agency for Global Media, which oversees the Voice of America. Steve Herman, VOA News, at the White House.
It has become an instant, iconic image. Former President Trump, blood streaking his face, fist raised in the air as he survives a botched assassination attempt in Pennsylvania. Social media ensured that image and other iconic images from that day circulated quickly around the world. Media analysts examine the power of news photography and how independent media work to combat the waves of disinformation in the wake of an attack. Christina Casiedo-Smith has the story.
It's a photo seen around the world. Taken by veteran AP journalist Ivan Vucci, the image captures the immediate aftermath of the attempted assassination of Trump at a campaign rally.
It's a normal rally. I've done it hundreds of times, and over my left shoulder, I heard several pops, and I knew immediately it was gunfire.
Vucci is one of dozens of photojournalists covering the Butler, Pennsylvania rally Saturday. The shooting left one bystander dead and injured Trump and others. Images from that day are described by some U.S. media outlets as iconic. But ethics experts are watching to see how, in a polarized time, media and others use the coverage of the attack.
The media needs to stay on the facts and tell the whole story the way it is, but it doesn't have to actually exaggerate. It doesn't have to add outrage to its own actual headlines.
Vincent says the portrayal of the moment will play into the political discourse.
The real ethics of it, I feel, comes in interpreting where the picture is, what it stands for in the narrative about American culture, politics, guns, violence.
For photojournalist Vucci, his priority was documenting the events unfolding right in front of him.
I knew that this was a moment in American history that had to be documented. I mean, it's our job as journalists to do this work.
In the hours after the shooting, social media mentions of Trump skyrocketed, says cyber analyst PeakMetrics. Most posts were sympathetic, but a smaller percentage spread disinformation and conspiracy theories. That includes baseless claims that political parties on either side are responsible. Analysts say this is where media have an important role in sorting fact from fiction.
There's no evidence for either of these conspiracy theories, but they reflect the kind of claims that are spreading in this very polarized, emotional climate in the immediate aftermath of the assassination attempt.
Trump was back in public Monday at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, where the now famous photo is appearing on T-shirts. Christina Casiedo-Smith, VOA News.
You can follow all the news updates at voanews.com and check us out on Instagram and Facebook at VOA News. You can also view past episodes at our free streaming service, VOA Plus, and follow me on Twitter, also known as X, at KGYP. I'm Katherine Gibson. See you next week for the Inside Story.
You're in a queue, for example, and you go to some places or some countries and the queue is the queue. You have to join from the back, right? And that's conducive because, hey, I was here before you, makes sense. But then you find some people that they just don't have the time and everybody is in a hurry and they jump to the front stylishly and feel they will get away with it. Sometimes some people just don't want trouble and they just leave you with your, your actions. But then you will find in some places where people don't like it, they don't condone it, and they will call you out. Excuse me, the queue is at the back. We need to see more of that nowadays.
You've probably experienced a scenario like this. You're waiting in line for a service or to buy something, and someone who sees the long queue comes along and goes straight to the front of the line, completely disregarding everyone standing. In most cases, some people on the queue will speak up, but some will look on with utter disbelief. With teeming population, it is almost inevitable not to experience queuing. If you're not queuing at the bus station, you're queuing at the ATM or in the bank, or to get tickets to your favorite show. Queuing is a way to create orderliness and to ensure that there is some fairness. But like clockwork, there will always be the impatient ones, or the ones who feel too smart that they find a way to jump the queue. Queues are not created to simply waste time, but to ensure orderliness, because the chaos that happens without the orderliness leaves a lot of people bitter, angry, and helpless. The reason why queuing is challenging for us can be associated with the way we see it. Darden Professor Elliot N. Weiss and colleagues Graham Gillam, Kylie Simmons, and Donald Stevenson explain that across the globe, people wait for food and transportation, to make purchases, to get services, or to have experiences. But how they view the wait, what the rules are, and what they expect vary widely. Some cultures see needing to wait as almost always negative, while in other societies, seeing there is a line can signal there's something worth waiting for.
In an environment where they don't call it out and they allow people to jump the queue, and jumping the queue becomes normal and the norm, they won't say anything wrong with it. They will continue to do it because they can't see the bad in it. You get to an environment where, hey, it's not possible for you to ever think of jumping the queue because people say, get back. Excuse me, we've been here before you, join the queue. There and then you notice that you've done something wrong. It conditions your mindset, I can't jump the queue in this environment, it's not acceptable. And so you begin to readjust yourself. It's a culture change.
Instead of seeing queues as a waste of time, see it as a way to better manage time. It is also a way to ensure fairness and equity. The next time you feel the urge to jump a queue, don't. Instead, remember some of these guidelines. Make up your mind if you will join the queue or not. Once you have joined the queue, stay in your line. You may decide to ask what the waiting time is before you join the queue. Some organizations will provide this service. Try to stay in lane, only reserve by using someone you know. Never say you were behind someone in a queue. Wait for someone to be behind you before you leave the queue if you must. Respect other people's space while on the queue. Watch your conversation on the phone, keep it confidential. Watch your personal belongings. Try not to leave shopping bags on the floor. Acknowledge the number of bags you're carrying. If you forgot something, unless it is close by, you will run the risk of losing your place once you leave the queue. Exercise huge amounts of patience, even when the queue appears endless. If you're holding a place for someone, explain to others around you to avoid conflict. Sometimes, the queue may be a telephone inquiry. You may have the option of calling back or leaving a message to be called back. If someone appears like they're jumping the queue, politely correct them without getting into a squabble. Always wait your turn if the queue is automated. Sometimes you may need to wait to be beckoned, served, or for the green light before proceeding. Follow the rules and move orderly.
Local government financial autonomy. Makinde sets a committee to review Supreme Court judgment. As a former governor of Ekiti State, Fayose says autonomy won't work. I am Bola Oba. Fits is plus politics. Local government financial autonomy, Supreme Court judgment. Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde has constituted a special technical and legal committee to review the recent Supreme Court judgment on local government financial autonomy. Governor Seyi Makinde had, before the closed door meeting, berated the Supreme Court judgment and strategies by the federal government to usurp undue authority over the state and local government administration, thereby causing tension within the nation's polity rather than focusing on other germane issues affecting the nation's economy. Similarly, Ayodele Fayose, former governor of Ekiti State, says the Supreme Court verdict granting financial autonomy to the 7 rest of the 4 local government areas could prove impracticable. Fayose said that even though he does not subscribe to the state governors taking the funds of local governments, it is difficult to separate both tiers. He said that the House of Assembly of every state controls the activities and checks the activities of the local government. Last week, the Apex Court ruled that the federal government should henceforth pay allocations directly to local governments.
I believe a lacuna has been created between that Supreme Court decision and the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We all swore, I swore to uphold the Constitution, but the law is the law. If the law says, if the law is in conflict, it behoves on us to look for our own homegrown solution that will ensure that we have transparency, we can operate, and our people, because when two elephants are fighting, the grass will suffer. Your state will get out of this even stronger. We are people that we know what is good for our people. We can run our own affairs. The federal government is not superior constitutionally to the state government. Well, they have more resources than the states. I believe a lacuna has been created.
Meeting today was to discuss what happens to Oyo State government, to the welfare of the people, to the development of the people going forward. And committees have been set up, like I said. They have between 4 to 6 weeks to look into all the issues that may arise, because the judgment will not drive itself at the local levels. The judgment will not, deliver development by itself. People will still be involved. And that is what the meeting of today was all about.
Joining us to look at things is the lawyer and public affairs analyst, Tunde Kolawole. Also joining us is the House Leader of Councillors at the Onigbogbo LCDA, Honorable Kayode Opayemi, and a lawyer and public affairs analyst, Gerald Dokoli. Gentlemen, welcome to Plus Politics.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Honorable Opayemi, let me start with you.
Yes, sir.
You are in a peculiar situation. Number one, you are an elected councillor, but the contraption, the local governance institution where you function is a stranger to the Nigerian Constitution. So you cannot be a beneficiary, either directly or by proxy of this judgment credit to the third tier of government. Well, what would be your response to that?
Number one, I want to bet to disagree with you that we are strangers because we are LCD. If I would understand where you are coming from, where you're going to. Reason why is that we should remember that the Supreme Court judgment created reasons, the elements of necessity that brought about the creation of the LCDAs. If you go back to the history, when our president was our governor, he decided to expand the local councils to 57, and the then President Obasanjo, took it up as an issue. And eventually, they had to go to the court, and the Supreme Court judgment gave a ruling that the state has the power to create local government, but the process was incoherent. If you remember that statement, incoherent.
But incoherent. The process was incoherent.
Incoherent, yeah, thank you. It was incoherent, and by what it means is that it is not complete. It has not followed, it has not completed this process. And by so doing, that they can eventually those 37 local government created out of the 20 can be made to be local council development areas. And in that wise, I think it was also given that the 20 local government will have the funds. But don't forget, sir, that the LCDAs are also part of those 20 local governments. They were formed from a local government. So we are not strangers, not in any way. We are still in existence. And don't forget now, what I want to put into it is a process that has been run for 21 good years successfully, that has been operating even better than some existing local governments from other states that have conducted elections in those local governments for more than some local governments that are existing in the constitution cannot be called strangers. Thank you.
Okay, I want to believe that with your very articulate line of defense, maybe I should withdraw the word stranger and say at best, LCDAs, as they function in Lagos and other states of the Federation, are acquaintances to the Constitution as a result of the pronouncement of the Supreme Court on the litigation by the then Lagos State government on the creation of local council development authorities as an inchoate entity as pronounced by the Supreme Court. Okay, let me go to Barrister Okolie. Barrister Okolie, are you there?
I'm here, I can hear you.
Fantastic. Barrister Okolie, the Supreme Court, from the responses of the governor of Oyo State and the former governor of Ekiti State, may have pushed itself into a cul-de-sac that is generally taught against in law schools. The Makinde, and which may be the sentiments of many governors that are not talking out now, realpolitik would or may end up making the pronouncement or the ruling of the Supreme Court quite academic, and the governors may ultimately still just find a way around what the Supreme Court is trying to achieve. Your response, sir?
The law is dynamic. Current ground norm of Nigeria is the 1999 Constitution as amended severally over time. In practice, we've not been practicing the LCDA form of governance. It's a new contraption that governors brought up. It started from the current president when he was a governor. And we've always had local government system where funds are paid directly to the local government chairman. I think the finance minister then, Dr. Okonjo-Iweala, used to post on national dailies funds that were paid to each of the 774 local governments in Nigeria. And if you go back to the 1999 Constitution, it recognizes only the local governments. It does not recognize LCDAs. So I don't think that what the Supreme Court did was, by their ruling, was an academic exercise. It's something that has been practiced over time.
I think, sir, you may not have understood my question very well. My question fundamentally centers around the fact that even if the fund coming from the Federation at point, the former Minister of Finance used to publish funds going to those local government councils, I am saying that given the response of Governor Makinde, the local government chairman may be hounded to give the funds to the governor or spend the funds as directed by the governor, because as Governor Fayose stated, realpolitik says that those governors are holding their offices at the mercy of their governors. The local government chairmen are holding their offices at the mercy of the local government chairman. I'll come back to you, Barrister Okoye. I have another lawyer, Barrister Kolawole. What would be your response, Barrister Kolawole, to that? Hello?
Hello, am I audible?
Is Barrister Kolawole still there? Okay. Barrister Okoye, you may want to take a